Lucci is a confirmed Luffy hater all the way through. This man said, I refuse to accept Straw Hat as an emperor. He like, I don't care what the Navy has to say. I'ma kill this man. This man don't care. He's like, screw this joker. It's like Stussy. Stussy was like, you're determined to ignore the Navy, aren't you? And he's like, yup. I said, I don't care what they gotta say. Like, it's like Stussy, you don't understand. I knew this man 2 years ago. We were even, right? I was about to take this man down and he just got lucky out of nowhere. Like, you telling me I'm supposed to ignore this? Flashback to now, all of a sudden, we're both awakened, right? This man gonna clap me. This man gonna stretch out my insides and everything. You saw what he did to my stomach? Heck nah, man, I'm about to get this dude. Like, he is dying. I hate this man, I hate this. And it's like, hey yo, I'm just sitting there like, hey Lucci, you might want to chill out with that. That's how I got permabanned from Reddit, all right? You might want to chill out with the hate. I was hating on the main mod of One Piece. I was like, man, I was just looking at this dude's profile. He was talking smack about Carrot, right? I was like, man, I can't stand this dude. I hate this man. I can't stand this dude. I just started talking smack out of nowhere. Oh my lord. One of these days though, hey, best believe Reddit, I'm coming back. I am coming back. When Carrot joins, I am pulling up like Kratos did when he went up to Mount Olympus, threatening to take down Zeus.
Zeus! Your son has returned! I've come to run the hands! I'm taking your cheeks! And it will be non-consensual!
I'm gonna have a brand new account. It's gonna be under a VPN and everything. Reddit's not gonna be able to track me. It's over at that point. I'm roasting everybody. When Carrot joins, I expect y'all to be in position, cheeks spread, and you know what, I'm getting off topic. Hi, I'm Vagabond Kana. Welcome to the One Piece chapter 1071 review, titled A Hero's Offensive. So, my God, I'm tripping right now. I really am. So we get to see the aftermath of where Kuma spanked himself, and did Kuma spank him? Does Kuma actually spank himself? That's hilarious if he spanks himself. So anyways, he's flying like Superman, like he's got the position down and everything, and he ends up going directly to the Red Wall, and it's at the Red Port, the base of the Red Line. At this, they see Bartholomew Kuma and they're like, oh my God, it's time to run away. So I'm thinking that this is, he's probably been programmed to go right back to the world government, to Marigewa, because he went directly back to the Red Line. And I'm just like, okay, there might be a catch to that, but it's kind of interesting how the world government, I'm sorry, not the world government, the revolutionaries like Sabo and everybody, they went out of their way to actually like rescue this guy. But then he ended up just spanking himself all the way back to the area. It's kind of interesting. But we got to see what's going to happen here. This is really weird. It's really, really weird. But anyways, we move on to Egghead Island. And there's this one thing that I've noticed. You know that thing, that little line where they have like numbers showcased and that's where the laser line is? That number that's always been there, it's always been at different numbers before. There was one time I think it was at like 72, and then before this chapter it was at 99. Now it's at 100. What does that even mean? Is there a reason? Like, I don't even know. But anyways, moving on, we get to see what all the Vegapunks are up to. They're literally sitting here. Lilith is ready to fight. Lilith is like, all right, yeah, CP0's up here, perfect. That means we get to avenge Atlas. I'm raring to go. And of course, Shaka is not really okay with that. It's like, okay, Lilith, you know, I'm not really feeling all that. And it's kind of funny because they get into like a little small argument. Lilith is sitting here. She's like, why can't we fight these jokers after they pretty much attacked us? And and then Shaka is like, okay, but the whole point is to get the Stella body, the main Vegapunk, to safety. Our goal is to retreat. And then Lilith is just pissed off at that. He's like, okay, all right, that goody act of yours is getting on my nerves. And he's like, all right, well, that's too bad, huh? You just gonna have to deal with me, aren't you? So all the Vegapunks are sitting here and they're discussing how they're going to escape. And they mention another ally on this island that they could rely on. And they're like, man, well, we don't really want to get them in trouble like that, you know? If they're in the government sites too, you know, it'll be a problem for them. And then Vegapunk, now this is something very interesting about Vegapunk. He just goes ahead and calls him anyway. He's like, hello, I'm in a big pinch. Please help me, Quasar. And I'm just like, and they say he asked so shamelessly. And I'm just like, okay, I think the thing with Vegapunk is that his moral compass, he doesn't really have a moral compass. He just gets done when what he needs to get done. He's not thinking about like how things work out for other people. He's really kind of just focused on the assignment, the task at hand, and he kind of just pushes to side every other aspect. It kind of goes back to that whole thing where he tried to create a whole world supercomputer where everyone can connect their minds to, and Jinbei was like, hey, what about the whole thing about the different ideologies and whatnot clashing together? Don't you think that would be a problem? He was like, yeah, but I'm not gonna really worry about that. It doesn't matter. That's that. This is a big Vegapunk thing. He seems to not, his moral compass is not really there in terms of, like, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. You know what I'm saying? There's a very different thing here, and Vegapunk is shown only to really have knowledge in terms of like school smarts, but not really like just overall wisdom of how to treat people and whatnot. It's very interesting. But I mean, hey, you need help? Go ahead and ask for it. Screw it, right? He was like, screw it, don't care. So we cut to Luffy and co, and Bonnie is chasing after Vegapunk. She's like, that Vegapunk, to think he stooped to using bugs against me. And it's like, well, that's not really his fault. It's kind of you. He was trying to tell you. It's like, hey, you probably shouldn't pick up that lightsaber, you know what I mean? But in this panel, she looks like a pissed off Five Nights at Freddy's character. She looks like kind of frightening in a funny sense. I'd still smash though, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, so Luffy's like, hey, I promised to get that old timer out of here in peace. It's like, don't beat this guy up and don't kill him. They're like, come on now. And so when this happens, all of a sudden, the Lab Stratum Frontier Dome defenses turn offline. And all the Vegapunks are sitting here, they're just like, okay, how did they turn off? Who disabled them? Now in this scene, very interestingly, the numbers that you see on the little cloud that the Labostratum is on top of, the numbers they're at 0. They're at 0. So it's funny because in this chapter they were at 100, now they dropped down to 0. So I'm just like, how does this thing work? And what's going on with the numbers? I don't understand the numbers at all. But anyways, I actually theorized that the person who ended up turning them off was actually Lilith. Because like, she's supposed to be the evil one, right? She's supposed to be the evil part of Vegapunk. And she really wanted to fight these guys. And so this had actually allowed Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy and the Seraphim to actually go all the way up and get past the laser defenses. And it actually shows in a later scene where Lilith is actually kind of happy about this. And she's like, okay, well, will you look at that? We get to actually go to war after all, is what she said. So she really wants to fight these guys and avenge Lilith and just overall hurt people. So I actually do think it was Lilith that ended up turning that off. But it is left as kind of a mystery for right now, but we'll see where this goes later. So when Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy actually make it up to the top, they see the Straw Hat pirate ship, and then Kaku's like, oh, okay, well, I'll take care of the ship. And he does like a huge slice, Tempest Kick Slicer, Sky Slicer, right? And Zoro, he's literally sleeping at that moment while the attack is going at him. He just wakes up and just blocks the attack, and he's just like, okay, who interrupted my sleep? It's just a classic Zoro, always being sexy as usual. That's just him. And it's like the way he's just looking at freaking Kaku is like, who the hell interrupted my nap? And then Kaku, he's actually sweating. He's like, bro, Noah. I was like, that's right, Kaku. That's right. He's the guy who low diff. No, he didn't low diff him. It was a high diff actually, but he's the guy who beat you before. That's right. And so they actually clash again. And here's the thing. Do you guys actually think that Oda is gonna show an extended fight between these two? Because I really hope they do. But you kind of know how Oda is. He really kind of mainly cares about Luffy fights, and that's kind of it. And it's true. He spends more time on that, and everybody else just gets like a clash, and that's it. But then again, Law did get an extended fight with Blackbeard, so... And that was very surprising. I did not expect to see that at all. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Oda will actually show this fight a little bit more. It would be cool if he did. I'd appreciate it. Like, how does Kaku today stack up against Zoro? Because I view Zoro as first commander level. Same thing as Lucci. I view Lucci as first commander level as well right now. As to like where he stacks up against, say, like Zoro, I don't know. I really don't. My bias would say Zoro would win. My bias says that, but I don't really have much facts for it. And on top of that, I mean, we're using Luffy to measure Lucci's fighting style. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's Luffy. He's clearly gonna destroy him. So it's like, I don't really know how to gauge Lucci in comparison to other first Yonko commanders like King or Katakuri or anything of the sort. I don't really know how to do that with him. But hey, whatever. Kaku, however, of course he's weaker than Lucci. So it's like, still at this point in time, I would argue that Zoro would beat Kaku. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, it's not like he's just gonna sit here and lose. But here's the funny thing. They do not show Brook. And I'm like, okay, Brook hasn't met these guys. He showed up in Thriller Bark, and these guys dealt with them in the Water 7 Enies Lobby arc, right? So I actually want to see his reaction to these guys. Like, who the heck are these guys? I was like, oh, this is CP0. Or Zoro might call him CP9, who knows? But yeah, so it's interesting. But there are also two more. It's not just Kaku that Zoro and Brook have to deal with. It's also Stussy and Lucci. So it's just like, okay, they are outnumbered right now. And I don't know how well Brook would do against, well, I know Brook would not do good against Lucci. I know he won't. And I don't know how he'd do against Stussy. We haven't seen much of Stussy. Maybe we see something interesting in Stussy. Maybe she has a devil fruit. Who knows? I mean, honestly, who knows? So Luffy and the crew actually catch up with Sanji and the rest of the crew. And they're discussing it, and then Luffy's like, oh, but we just got here. Come on, let's not rush this. And so they're just basically talking about how they have to get off the island. Meanwhile, Bonnie is trying to kill Vegapunk. And Vegapunk this scene is actually way funnier than I thought it would be. It's just so cartoony, but I mean, I am reading One Piece, so of course it's gonna be cartoony. But it's just like, she's like, can you turn my dad back to normal? Yes or no? And he's like, no, I'm sorry, I just can't, okay? But there's a reason for that. And she's just trying to murder this dude. Oh, it's just a funny looking scene. But we actually end up cutting to Kid and Killer and the rest of the crew. And they are pulling up on Elbaf. So we get to see Kid's reaction. And one interesting thing about Kid's character that's also very similar to Luffy's is that he's sitting here while Killer is asking him, hey, there's an island coming up nearby. Should we go look around? And then the kid's like, are you really asking that? When have I ever passed on exploring an island? And so that's a very similar thing between Kid and Luffy once again. And I like that. You know, like, Kid is like a rougher, more evil Luffy that kills, right? At least I would say. And so I actually like that about Kid's character. That's some nice characterization there. But so they find out they're coming up against the home of the giants, which is very hyped. So that means we get to see Kid when we get to Elbaf. Because guys, let's be real, we are going to Elbaf, okay? We are going to Elbaf. The question, I mean, to question it at this point is just kind of weird, honestly, because it's just like, look, Usopp has been wanting this since the Alabasta arc started, didn't it? The Alabasta saga? Since Little Garden, let's just say that. Since Little Garden. He's been wanting this for the longest of time. Also, Jaguar D. Saul is in Elbaf. Ties to Robin. Also, Elbaf, I mean, let's be honest, this is a great location to go to. It's not really like, it's not like it's just some side thing that nobody gives a crap about. This is a big deal. So let's not pretend here. But anyways, that scene was very short. So we ended up actually cutting away to a G4 naval base, and we actually get to Garp, and he's like, he's pulling up on Himepo. He's like, hey, Himepo, come on, let's go get Kobe. We're gonna go attack Blackbeard. So we're gonna get Garp going up against Blackbeard. So I'm very curious about how this goes, because Law was just fighting Blackbeard. So are they just gonna see Law and his crew just laid to waste on the ground or something? Like they just got completely destroyed and they're just laying there like, oh, Blackbeard, he defeated us or something like that. Because let's be honest, Law's not gonna win. I mean, he's just not, okay? He can't win. He physically can't win. He relies too much on his devil fruit, and on top of that, Blackbeard negates devil fruits. Not only that, but he has 2 devil fruits and may actually have better hockey. I would assume that he does. So yeah, there's no way Law's making out of that in One Piece. Pun not intended. But these guys are gonna go off to save Kobe. So let's see what happens. And that actually marks the end of the chapter. This chapter is a good setup chapter for a lot of things, for Kid, for Garp, and for, well, I mean, we're always doing kind of like a setup thing with the Straw Hats, so I'm not gonna be too surprised about that one. But it's, I mean, I guess you could technically say it sets up Zoro versus Kaku, but how is that gonna go? Because it's like, it's only Zoro and Brook versus Kaku, Lucci, and Stussy, so that's not really a good sign. But we gotta see. On top of that, we have Admiral Kizaru showing up, so it's gonna be a big deal. It's very important that the Straw Hats just escape. Because it's like, yeah, Luffy's tough and all, Zoro's tough and all, but there are too many strong opponents. You have, like I said, you have CP0, then you have the Seraphim, which are a huge problem. Just one of them is a huge problem. Don't let Seraphim Mihawk catch up to you. And don't let Seraphim Boa see Sanji, because it's a wrap for him then. God, at least, I hope Sanji doesn't do that. Please don't do that, Sanji. But anyways, and then you got Kizaru and Admiral, so it's like, yeah, nah, y'all need to go. Because your goal is to protect Vegapunk, is it not? So they're really discussing on how they're going to get off the island. It's gonna be, you know, Kizaru said, okay, they'll get off easy, but they won't get off as easily as they may think they will. That's at least last chapter, right? So it's a lot of good setup here. I like what's going on, and the tensions are rising. It really is for this one. And now let's see how Oda executes it, because this could end up being kind of like, all right, they got away, interesting things happen, blah, blah, blah. It could be like super basic, right? But we gotta see. Also, I'd like to mention the light pressure glove that Atlas has. So now that Atlas is out of commission, I do think that these gloves, okay, there are not many Straw Hats that they can go to, right? I mean, people say, you know, I've seen some people say, oh, it can go to Luffy, but that literally makes no freaking sense. Like, why would Luffy need that for Kizaru? If he already has Haki, that doesn't make any sense. It's just weird. So it can't go to Luffy. It really doesn't make sense to go to Zoro, and it doesn't make sense to go to Sanji either, because they're gloves, not boots. So it's like, Jinbei, he has Haki as well. All the people who have straight up Haki, doesn't make sense for it to go to them. So what other character do we know that uses their fist to punch and attack things? Well, nobody else but Frankie. I mean, you can say Robin grabs people and she slaps people, but she usually creates copies of her hands, and that's not gonna transfer the glove's powers to the rest of her hands. It's not gonna happen. So it's just like, you can only really think of Frankie. Now, I think it really will go to Frankie, but if it's not gonna be Frankie, I'm telling you right now, I'm a straight up assume that, okay, Carrot's gonna show up at some point. But like I said, I believe Carrot will show up in like the 1080s, not the 1070s. So I'm like, okay, Carrot's gonna show up at some point, put on these gloves and go to town. But at the same time, the reason why I also say Frankie is not just because he uses his fist, but also these gloves are really freaking big. Atlas is comparable to the size of Kaido according to Luffy, right? So her hands are huge. Her hands are like the same size as Luffy. So it's like, okay, either Frankie puts them on, or it's like the Frankie Shogun puts them on, right? And then he can use it to combat Kizaru a little bit easier and maybe do some extra stuff with light. Who knows? But they're really huge. Unless if they're kind of like the boots and they can contract down the size to the person's exact hand size, because the boots do that with everybody else's feet. So it's possible that that is the case for the gloves as well. It's not too far-fetched to believe it. It's not. So my guess is that Frankie is going to get the gloves. If it's not Frankie, if Frankie does not get the gloves anytime soon, I'm gonna be like, hey, Carrot might get these gloves. Just saying. Carrot might pull up and just put on these gloves, and I mean, hey, I'm gonna go for there. But I'm gonna go with Frankie for right now. But hey, this chapter so far, it seems very interesting. Let's get on to these Reddit comments, and then let's see what we can do from there. Calling it now, Garp is gonna get killed by Blackbeard. Okay, so I'm not sure about all that. I mean, he might. Honestly, I've always looked at Garp as a character that would get killed. Not as much as Law. Law's definitely gonna freaking die at some point in the story, but Garp? Maybe. Garp might actually die. Because it's like, I don't think Garp is stronger than Blackbeard. Really don't. He might. It's possible. I want to believe that he won't, though. That's just me. I believe that after seeing Lucci so salty, he's gonna try to sneak attack Luffy when he's fighting Kizaru. That, or he's gonna try to do a full 2v1 against Luffy when Kizaru is fighting him. I mean, he might. I can see that happening. But this boy Lucci is vastly salty. And this man is sitting here like, man, this dude beat me 2 years ago. He got me fired, put me through hell. Then I came back. He's called a freaking Yonko. And then I fight him again in my awakened form. We're both awakened, and then he beats me again? Oh no, I hate this man so much. I can definitely see that happening. I'm gonna throw a crazy one out there and say that Vegapunk called an L. You wish. It was like, oh, he calling that Joker from the moon. Hey man, can you help us, Quasar? You know, I need to help a brother out, Quasar. Nah, that's definitely not happening. That is a stretch of a stretch. That is a Gear 5 Monkey D. I stretch my arm all the way past to the next galaxy stretch. It's not happening. When is the last time Enel gave a crap about anybody but himself? I don't know. I mean, hey, maybe we can find out more about Enel, but he's definitely not coming to help freaking Vegapunk. Oh, I see our pirate folk. They're back to the disrespect, which, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they did get low diffed. It is what it is, but sleep diff? Oh, you interesting, buddy. You're very interesting. This post says, I don't recognize Kid in Law's win against Big Mom. I'm salty. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, they did beat Big Mom. They did. But like I said, they pushed her down a freaking hole. Like, what even is that? Is this supposed to be sexy? Like, it's not. It was the wackest thing ever. And the only one who I'd argue did actual damage was Law. Even Big Mom said something about it. It's like, oh, gotta watch out for Law's attack. Nothing on Kid. This man got ignored beyond ignored. He was whipping out bulls and pushing her around and stuff. I was like, man, what is this garbage right here? What is this, bro? The railgun was cool though. Didn't do any damage, but it was cool. Bro is a dedicated hater. Yes. Stussy. Dude, stop. You are not going to beat Straw Hat. Lucci, I didn't hear no bell. This man is not, I'm telling you, man, this dude is not stopping. Not until this dude is dead. What is this? What is this garbage? I'm inside your walls. And, okay, and? What is this garbage? I like our pirate folk. I'm not even gonna lie. Okay, well that's it for the Reddit comments for right now. I'm not going to do the carrot opium session because I'm releasing a video tomorrow, but we got some things to talk about, and keep in mind, hey, in a few days, it's the year of the rabbit. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff next year, guaranteed. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like and subscribe, share this with other people, and we will be back next time. And with all that being said, Vagabond gone.